Well, again, if we've not met, if you've came in, my name's Clay. I'm the lead pastor here. We're thrilled that you're here as we kind of wrap up our series on miracles. And I'm super excited to introduce to you the person who's going to deliver us the last part of our series, Christian Nichles. He's not back. He has a doctorate, so sometimes I just tease him and call him doctor. But he's been a friend of mine for a number of years. As I said, Christian has a doctorate. He has been the youth pastor at some of our nation's largest churches, and then he went on to become a lead pastor of a church in Indiana and took it from about 400 people to be one of the largest churches in that denomination. We were sitting today, and I was asking, how many books have you written? So he's written 4 books. He's working on his 5th book. He's a conference speaker, and he told me not to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He will be on stage at a TEDx, which if you're in, this is what you do for a living, oh my gosh, wow, you get to be on TED. So he'll be doing that in October. But probably more important to some of you guys is he loves Carolina. He's got some Carolina blue on. Yeah, although he is from Alabama. But he does love Carolina, especially loves Jordan, and you'll see that he's wearing his Carolina blue Jordans and all of that. And unlike me, he's like this massive NASCAR fan. And I'm like, I don't know, it seems boring going around and around, left turn, left turn, left turn. But we are thrilled to have him down from Indiana to be able to speak to you guys. So would you give him a great next level welcome to Christian Nichles?
Well, good morning. That was good. I was ready to repeat that in case you weren't real good. Well, it was awesome. Hey, listen, let me just take a moment to say how incredibly encouraged I am this morning just to be here. I travel all over the country, all over the world, speaking, coaching, and training. And can I just take a moment to tell you that your staff and your team here at Next Level, bar none, some of the top in the whole world. So let's give the team here at Next Level a hand. Yeah. Don't take that for granted, right? Because not all churches are lucky enough to have that, and you guys are. So I'm super pumped to be here with you this morning for 2 reasons. Number one, I do love NASCAR. When I flew in to Charlotte, I could smell the racing fuel, you know? I grew up about 10 miles from Talladega Superspeedway, and I had my NASCAR license when I was 15, and I thought I was going to be this great NASCAR driver, and I'm not. I'm just a guy. And so, but I do love it, and I love being here, and I love the hot weather. So I'm here this morning to finish up a series on miracles, and let me just say, I'm going to step over here a second. Camera people are going to be really upset, because I want to lock eyes with a room full of miracles. A room full of miracles. But I get it. Sometimes we don't have that perspective. And so there are specific things that we're looking for in life to be miraculous. And most of the time, it's stuff that's totally out of our control when we need a miracle. I love the song, I only talk to God when I need something. Hey, I need something. Have you heard that song? And it's that's me every single day. I need so much from Him. But there are times in our life where we are looking for a miracle that only Jesus can do, the impossible thing. And over these last 4 weeks together, we've learned about some of those miracles that Jesus performed. And that they were not just for the healing of an individual, but to create this understanding of how much God loves us and what He's going to do for us in our lives as we follow Him. And it won't always be easy, but He's still the same God. But this week, what I've been given the privilege to speak to you about is what happens when the miracle doesn't come. Why? Why does the miracle not come? What happens in the waiting of a miracle to either happen or not happen? And so this morning, we're going to look at 3 stories, one about Jesus, one about a guy named Paul, and then another about a king named David. And what happens when apparently the miracle doesn't come. Now, this is an especially hot topic in my life and in my family because we're praying for a miracle right now. Still. We've been praying for a miracle since 2020, actually. I want to introduce you. This is my, at the time, 7-year-old daughter. Her name is Tori Christian. You know who she's named after? Yeah, she's my favorite. So Tori was a competitive swimmer. is a competitive swimmer. 7 years old. This is the very first race that she ever won in her life as a 7-year-old. She set 2 Texas records in her age division when she was swimming. By the time she was in 8th grade, she was already getting letters from colleges wanting her to come swim. This is the last swim that she ever swam before we started praying for a miracle. And by the way, she is in extraordinary pain right there, and nobody knew it. So much pain, in fact, that she couldn't lift her arms up. And she had no feeling in her hands or in her arms, and we just had no idea that was going on. She's just tough. You know, we just thought, oh, you're a little sore, get in the cool tub, you'll be fine. No, she's got something going on. Oh, by the way, she missed Junior Olympics by a 10th right there. So she has a surgery because we discovered that she has something called thoracic outlet syndrome. Look it up. It's a goofy thing. But the way you solve that is you remove your first 2 ribs, which are right under your collarbone. And so her first surgery was to remove her left first rib, but it wouldn't be her last. As a matter of fact, 5 months later, after her surgery, she developed a lymphatic mass, and while she was in the pool, all of her symptoms came back. She went back to Indianapolis, had a second surgery. After her second surgery, she got back in the pool. It was about 4 or 5 months after, physical therapy, and she just couldn't swim. She couldn't have a range of motion. So she went back and she had her third surgery, which was to remove her right first rib. So here's a 15, 16-year-old girl, and her dream was the Olympics. Her dream was to be a college athlete swimming. Her dream was to one day be a college swim coach. But her dream didn't come true. As a matter of fact, our whole family, our whole church family, everybody we knew, we were praying for Tori to be healed so that God would fulfill her dream. That we believe, as any of us should, that a dream only comes from God. A big dream comes from a big God. But she got back in the pool her senior year. And she swam her entire senior year. She made state, and she won every one of her races at state. So, super pumped about this picture. Never mind me looking extraordinarily goofy. But that's my Tori signing her national letter of intent to go to college and swim. Right? Super awesome. So she moves in early, and in college there are regulations about coaching and swimming and practices, and so she goes through all of the trainer-led practices, no coaches, and then the first day of her college career, first day, goes to class, she has to swim that afternoon. Her and her roommate, who's a diver, both get COVID, and they're locked in their dorm room for 8 days. She comes back out, she's great, she's at school, she's ready to swim, she gets in the pool, on the first lap, she sinks to the bottom of the pool because she can't lift her arms. And so that led to a series of events that would end her swimming career forever this last February when she had her 4th thoracic outlet corrective surgery on her rib cage. We're still praying for a miracle. This kid's at home right now. She's at home right now in horrific pain. And I'll be honest with you, as a dad, I don't understand that at all. So when I'm presented this and when I begin to look at what it means when the miracle doesn't happen, I get it. I really do. I want this to happen for my daughter. Plus, I didn't want to pay for college. You know what I mean? It's like, all those travel swim teams, I could have afforded college with that. So this morning, if you have a copy of the scriptures, I'd love if you don't. They're going to be on the screen, so don't worry. We're going to be in Matthew's biography of the life of Jesus. We have 4 of those, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. They kind of give us a biography of Jesus. And in Matthew's, there's this point in time, and we're going to drop into the story. You may be familiar with all the stories that we look at this morning. So Jesus has just finished telling the boys, that's the guys that hung out with him. He's just finished telling the boys, hey, I'm going to die. You're not going to die. I have seen you turn water to wine. I've seen you walk on water. I saw Lazarus dead, and then he was alive. I saw thousands upon thousands of people eat off of this little boy's lunch one time. You're going to die? There's no way. And Jesus says, that's the way. And so we drop down into this story, and it says this, then. Now, let's stop for a second. You're like, we're going to be here a long time if we're stopping already. Then. I want you to know that when you're reading God's Word, and you're reading these stories, that the language is really important. Words matter. And so when it says then, that's a very intentional timestamp statement. Then. Something was happening before, and now we're going to a new part of the story. So then, Jesus went with them, right? Those were the ones that were in the upper room with him. They had the meal. Judas is gone, being sneaky, all of that. Then we went to the olive grove called Gethsemane. And he said, sit here and wait, I'm going to go pray. Just sit here. Sit here. Now, this is really cool. I've actually been to Israel. And these are two pictures. On the right is the very olive grove right outside the Temple Mount. So when you stand at Gethsemane, you're looking right at the bottom of the wall of the city of Jerusalem. And to the left is the actual place where Jesus went, and it's called Gethsemane. Now, Gethsemane means olive press. So to contextualize this for you, Jesus tells the boys, I've got to die. No way. You're miraculous. It's not going to happen. And then he takes them to a place of pressure. You see that? Intentionally. I don't know about you, but I avoid pressure. If my little Waze app doesn't take me a route that doesn't have the traffic, I get pretty upset. Like, I don't want pressure. So Jesus intentionally walks into this place of pressure, and he says, just sit here. Why? Because I'm going to go pray. He took Peter and Zebedee, the two sons, James and John, and he became anguished and distressed. Now, if you have a Bible or you like to highlight or whatever, I would recommend doing that. Because these are two words that I think all of us are familiar with. Everyone ever been kind of stressed out? Have you ever been in such a place of pain or longing or grief, and you don't even know if you're going to make it? Like, you're just, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do this another day. I don't know if I can wait another day. Jesus felt this way. Let me say that again. As I look at a room full of miracles, Jesus, the Son of God, felt the way that we feel sometimes. And so this isn't foreign to God, how we feel. So he's anguished and distressed. He told them, my soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay and keep watch with me. So Jesus looks at his three best friends, and he says, would you just keep watch? I call these 3 a.m. friends, right? Like, my dad used to ask me, like, if you get put in jail, who are you going to call? He meant, don't call me. That's what he meant. And I said, well, I'm going to call my best friend. He goes, really? I go, yeah. He goes, well, your best friend, if he's your best friend, will be in jail with you. Right? So he takes his 3 a.m. friends. They've lived life together for several years at this point. He says, listen, all I want you to do is just watch. Watch over me. Because I'm in bad shape. I mean, he's sweating blood. He's so distressed. So just keep watch with me. See, sometimes when we are waiting on the miracle, we just need somebody to be with us. Sometimes saying something is the worst thing we can do. I like Job, the story of Job. His 3 friends come to see him, and they sit with him for 7 days, and then they open their mouth, and the whole thing turns bad. So sometimes we just don't say anything. He just says, watch with me. He went farther, bowed with his face to the ground, and he prayed. Again, praying. My Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me, yet I want your will to be done, not mine. Now think about this a second. First of all, this cup of suffering. The Hebrews, in the Hebrew mind, would have understood this to be wrath or condemnation or suffering or any adjective you want to describe. This cup of suffering, if there's any way, if it is possible, can you do this a different way? Because Jesus knew what he was walking into. He knew that Judas was gone and he was bringing back an army. He knew that the high priests were waiting on. He knew that the Roman cross was waiting on him. Just help me not have to do it this way. Think about that. The Son of God, Jesus, that performed every miracle in the world. He said, if it is possible, can I ask you a question? And this is where I really like feedback, right? So I like you to talk. Do you think it was possible for God to do this a different way? Absolutely. Absolutely it was, but it wasn't the plan. The plan was for this, and it had been. If there's any other way, but look, I want your will to be done. One of the things that we need to know, we need to posture ourselves in such a way that if the miracle never comes, we know it's still possible. So that's a posture of the heart, of surrender, to say, look, not the way I want this to go down, but the way you want this to go down. If I had my way, my daughter would be swimming in the Paris Olympics right now. She'd be over there. We watched the Olympic trials because they're in Indianapolis, not far from where we live. They built this huge pool inside the Colts football stadium. And we watched it together, and she was so excited. She knew several of the girls on the team, and she was like pulling for, and she's still super fired up about swimming. And I watched her, and I cried. I drive fast cars, and I love football, and I love Jordans and all that stuff, but I still cry because I'm like a real man. I cry. And I cried like a baby watching her because I wanted that to be her. I don't care what Katie Ledecky's doing. I didn't send Katie Ledecky to all these swim camps. I sent you. I didn't get up at 5 a.m. to go to practices for 10 years with Katie Ledecky. I went with you. But it's not coming. The miracle's not coming. Not my will. This must be your will, God. I don't understand it. I don't even like it. But not my will, your will be done. And so he returned, and the disciples, and he found them asleep. 3 a.m. friends, right? He found them asleep. And he goes, man, couldn't you guys just watch with me 1 hour? Now think about this. How long did Jesus go pray? An hour. I don't know how many hours you've been spending in prayer for your miracle, but the Son of God, who's all-powerful, all-knowing, all-doing, all of this, he begged God for an hour to not have to do this. But not my will, your will be done. So if this morning, if you're terrible at waiting on your miracle, you're in pretty good company. You're sort of like Jesus. He didn't want that. And what will make the difference in your life is like what made a difference in his life is how you posture yourself when the miracle doesn't come. I love that song we were singing. You get the glory. Yep. You get the glory. Yep. Miracle never comes. You get the glory. It's still you. So, keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Jesus knows us intricately. He created us. And he knows our propensities. And when the miracle doesn't come, we tend to get tempted by other things. Well, let me try this other thing. Well, let me believe in this other thing. Well, let me try to do this other. Let me try to do it my way. And Jesus says, not my will, but your will be done, Father. He's setting an example for us, and now he's teaching his disciples, the boys, listen, life is going to be difficult, and there are going to be times you can't get out of the jams that you're put in. But I won't leave you. I will be in them with you. And so Jesus sets the example for us. Then Jesus left them a second time and prayed, my Father, if this cannot be taken away, unless I drink it, your will be done. So he doubles down. Okay, fine. I know it's possible. As a matter of fact, I just taught the boys about the possibility that with God, all things are possible, even if things are impossible with man. So I know you can do it. But Father, look at that relationship. Daddy, Abba, are you listening to me? You been there? Are you listening, God? Give me some help down here. I'm begging. I'm dying. My friend's dying. Hello? Were you not at the doctor with me earlier when I got the diagnosis? Hello? Were you not at the funeral home with me watching us all grieve over this person that we just don't think we can live without? Hello, did you know that after 20 years at my job, I got cast aside? Where are you? You're not showing up. I know you can, but why aren't you? And so Jesus begins this journey of what would turn out to be a miracle for us, but not for him. You see, sometimes your life is the miracle in someone else's, even when you don't think it is. When your life's a hot mess. And can I tell you, the last 3 days here, everything's a hot mess. Goodness gracious, it was 49 degrees last week where I live. So I want to go to this second story. Go to this second story. It's in 2 Corinthians. You don't have to turn there, but if you will. So here's the deal. Paul, this guy was a prolific preacher. He traveled all over the world planting churches, and he planted a couple of churches in this city called Corinth, which was this huge port city. Everything in the Roman Empire ran through there. And he planted this church, and several years after that, they were a hot mess, and they needed some miracles to happen. And so they sent a letter to Paul, and Paul actually wrote 3, maybe 4 letters back to them, and we call them 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, right? They're just a letter. It's like you would pen in an email or whatever. So he writes this letter. And one of the accusations is that Paul is an arrogant narcissist. And he says, you know, I kind of am. Read chapter 12 at the beginning. He goes, hey, listen, I've got a lot to brag about. Like, I'm a good dude. I'm really good at what I do. And so we drop down into his story in verse 7. So, Paul admits, I kind of like myself. So, to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. You see, sometimes if the miracle comes too quick, we think we're miraculous. Or that we did the right thing, that we said the right thing, we prayed the right prayer. Hey, you're in church this morning. Don't you get like some kind of check mark for that? I mean, I could be anywhere right now, but I'm here. I was at church, God. Give me the miracle. Like transactional. But remember, Jesus is into relationship, not transactions. He just wants to know you and love you, and you know and love him. And so Paul says, listen, I was given a thorn in my flesh. Now listen, over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, people have written all kinds of books to speculate what the thorn in the flesh was. And I'm of kind of the persuasion that if God wanted me to know it, he'd have probably put it right here. You gave me the thorn of the flesh, which was boom, 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 boom. But he didn't. So we have no idea what it was, which means that whatever you're suffering right now, it doesn't matter. Jesus is looking at you. He knows where you're at, and he understands. He has empathy. Hebrews says that we have a great high priest who knows how we feel. And so Paul says, I've got this thorn in my flesh. But notice where it comes from. You see, we have an enemy who seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And one of the main things that will happen, like he told the disciples when they were asleep, keep watch. Don't fall into temptation. Why? Because when your miracle hasn't come yet, here's what you're going to hear. I told you God doesn't care about you. I told you should have not done that. Oh, just don't forget about it. He doesn't care. You see, Satan never tries to convince anyone that there is no God. He just tries to convince us that God doesn't love you. Which is totally not true. He does love you. So Paul, I don't want to become proud. He knows that this is his journey. Watch what he says. He says 3 different times, I begged the Lord to take it away. Jesus begged for an hour. Paul begged, we see 3 times, which basically means he was always praying about it. Lord, please, not my will, but your will. Each time, so 3 times. So 3 times, God said, my grace is all you need. Really? That's all I need is your grace? I'm sitting down here with a diagnosis. I'm sitting down here with a broken heart. I'm sitting down here with a kid who's lost their dreams. I'm sitting down here wanting to know when I'll get married or when I'll get that job or when this will, when? Like what's going to happen? Your grace is sufficient. Yeah, it's all you need. Because it's his grace that will allow you to continue getting up. It's his grace that will give you comfort. But it's the posture of your heart that receives it. And Paul, and Jesus were both more concerned about the posture of our heart than they were the miracle itself. And that's what we need to be. Is it possible for Jesus to do the impossible? Yes. He can do abundantly more than we could ever ask or hope for. That's my life verse, Ephesians 3:20. And listen, I can ask for a lot. You know what I'm saying? I can ask a lot. I asked Clay, I said, hey, before I leave, can I go see 2311 Race Shop? Well, yeah, it's just right up here. Why? Well, that's Michael Jordan's race team. I want to go check this out. And then when I get there, I could ask, hey, Mike, because I'm hoping Michael's going to be there, right? Surely he's there. Listen, Mike, I used to drink Gatorade and eat Wheaties and all that too. Look, I've got your shoes on. I have 87 pair of them. Every 1 to 40, whatever. You mind if I get in this car and drive? Bubba Wallace doesn't need to drive this car. I can. I can drive it. I can ask for a lot. You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't be here with you this morning. I'd be on a flight to Paris if God gave me what I asked for. My power works best in weakness. So let me give you another thing to be really encouraged about. If this morning you are weak and you can't move on, you're the most powerful miracle in the room, according to God's economy. Maybe not ours or our friends. You see, faith is a very funny thing. You know, doubt is not the opposite of faith. Fear is. But let me tell you how I view faith, and this came from scriptures. I think about faith in distance, not in weight. Jesus talked about this. When Peter stepped out of the boat, started walking, he started sinking, he said, oh, you have little faith. That word little in the original language doesn't mean you had a light amount. It means you didn't hold on to what you had long enough. See, that's the way faith is measured, in time and space, not in mass. Because I don't think I can have enough to help a miracle happen. But I can hold on long enough. One more day. My daughter, my swim daughter, has tattooed right here, one more lap. Because her whole thing, she says, there's going to be people better than me, but no one will outwork me. She's tough. She's like a great kid. I don't know. Her mother did a great job with her. So Paul goes on, he says, that's why I take pleasure in my weakness. I don't think my daughter takes pleasure in her weakness, and I don't think you do either. I know I don't. I don't want to be weak. I want to be strong. I want to be strong for my family. I want to be strong for my friends, and sometimes I'm just not. Sometimes I'm asleep. Sometimes I'm in anguish. But Paul says, the insults, the hardships, the persecutions, the troubles that I suffer for Jesus, for when I'm weak, then I am strong. And so if you have faith and you're holding on, just one more day, let's just have faith, one more day. And then when you get to that day and the miracle doesn't happen, just hold on one more day. There's about 365 opportunities for you to have faith in a year. One more day. One more day. So when you're weak, like Paul, like Jesus, you can be very miraculously powerful. So I'm going to say it again. I'm looking at a room filled with miracles. You're living and breathing. You're a miracle. And so Paul addressed that. Paul postured himself for, well, you're not taking the thorn away? Okay, let's go. On to the next city. On to the next stoning. On to the next getting kicked out of the city. On to the next somebody having to hide me. That was Paul's whole life. So, there's this final story, and this will be fairly quick. Clay said I had until 1:30, but I won't go that far. So there's this story in the Old Testament. This king named David, the kings went out every spring, they would go out to battle. Sort of like Game of Thrones, whatever, if you've seen that. And so he didn't go. He's like, nah, I've fought enough. I've been fighting so many battles in my life. You ever feel like that? Like, when's the battle going to be over, God? Maybe that's the miracle you're praying. We want the battle to be over. But he doesn't go. He stays home, gets in a little trouble. Takes advantage of a young lady that lives in their community. And she gets pregnant. And then he kills her husband. It's a terrible story. And so this guy comes, this 3 a.m. friend named Nathan, comes to David and tells him a story about a king. And at the end of it, David goes, that king sounds like a horrible human being. And Nathan goes, yeah, that's you. oh. So when the baby's born, it's really sick. He gets on his face and he prays day after day, week after week, moment after moment. All of those moments in a 7-8 day period, and then the baby dies. So this is where we're going to kind of fall into the story. On the 7th day, the child died. David's advisors were afraid to tell him, this is the king. I don't want to deliver bad news. None of us like to be the person who delivers the bad news, right? But you can be the miracle moment in a situation. Never doubt that. I don't want to tell him. He wouldn't listen to reason while the child was alive, but ill. What drastic thing will he do when we tell him the child is dead? But David saw them whispering, and he realized what had happened. He says, is the child dead? Yes, they replied. He is dead. He had been begging God for a miracle. He was angry. These people are very afraid of what he's going to do when he finds out the baby didn't make it. But I love verse 20. I love verse 20. You ready? David got up. He got up. He got up. That's all you got to do. Friends, let me just tell you, Jesus is big. He can do anything in this world or another. Maybe your miracle is still waiting, so get up. Get up. It says David got up, washed himself, put on lotion, changed his clothes, and he went to the tabernacle and he worshiped the Lord. And then this is another cool part. After that, he returned home and they served him some food. Man, I'm hungry. I'm ready to go get something to eat. He got up. So what do we do with this? I just want to give you 5 kind of actionable steps for you. What does all this mean for us? It's great, Christian. I'm glad. Perfect. Glad you told me those 3 stories. But what am I supposed to do with that tomorrow when the miracle's still not here? So the first thing that I want you to know is this. I want you to look for movement, not just miracle. Look for movement. You remember when Jesus performed the miracle, the guy blind, what did he do? He took dirt, he spit in it, which, by the way, that's disgusting. That would freak me out. I'm going to stay blind, whatever. He took it and he put it, so you see the steps, right? He took dirt, then he spit in it, then he rubbed it on his face, then he told him to what? Go wash it off. See, sometimes you just need to look for movement, not the miracle. What was the miracle? Well, he could see after being born blind. He'd never been able to see his entire life. Now he can. But through the movement, he wasn't. Yeah, Christian, that was a few moments, right? Well, sure. Moments are moments. They add up. Faith is measured in distance, in time. So just one more day. Just one more day. Just one more day. Keep looking for the movement, not the miracle. Listen, your life isn't accidental. Jesus then, he went to the pressure place. It was intentional. All of this had to happen in order for us to be the miracles that we are today. And so in your life and in my life, it's not an accident. It is no accident that my daughter has thoracic outlet syndrome. It's not an accident. I don't like it. I wish she didn't. It's a bizarre thing for a kid her age to even have, but she does. It's no accident. Third, prayer positions us for the answer. Prayer, we often think that I'm going to go and I'm going to get down on my face like Jesus, like Paul, like David, and I'm going to pray, and then because I'm praying and doing the right things, Jesus is going to respond, and here comes the miracle. But what I'm telling you is prayer is what positions you, prepares you, postures your heart for the answer, whether yes or no, or not right now. You see, prayer helps us hold on to faith a little longer. Next, never suffer alone. Jesus took his friends with him. He took his 3 a.m. friends a little further with him. Paul always traveled with a guy named Barnabas or Timothy or Luke. He always had somebody with him, even when he was in prison. So who are your 3 a.m. friends? I know exactly who my 3 a.m. friends are. They're sitting right over here. Right over here. You have 3 a.m. friends, right? If not, let's get some. And this is a great place to start. But you can't suffer alone. You can't wait on the miracle by yourself, because what? You're going to get tempted. You're going to fall asleep. You're going to stop believing. You're going to listen to the whispers of the enemy. And you need people in your life who's going to go, no, just get up. Just hang on. Just one more day. One more lap. And then finally, can we say this together? Louder. Louder. I hope they recorded that. Just get up. So, my daughter went to this specific school for a specific reason, and that was to be on the swim team. And so she moved home in the middle of her semester last year to have the surgery, and she finished at home, and she said, I'm going to transfer schools because the degree plan that she wanted is at another school. And she was heavily recruited by this coach, but didn't go there. She did not go to his school. She went to another school. And so the day before we're going to drive down to this new school and do parent orientation day at this university, my daughter comes running upstairs, and I can tell like something's fired her up. Like she's excited. And she's like pointing, and yes sir, I'm talking. I'm like, what? And she's like, hang on, you know how that works. And I'm thinking like, what is so cool and exciting? I want to be part of it. I got FOMO. Let's do it. She hangs up the phone and she says, Dad, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? She said, Coach Carnes, he just called and he saw my name in the transfer portal and he wants to talk to me. I said, did you tell him that you retired? You're not swimming anymore? That your doctor said don't ever competitively swim again? She said, yeah, I told him. I said, oh, that's good. I'm proud of you. I know that hurt. She goes, wait a minute, I'm not done talking yet. Okay, sure, go ahead. I'm like going into preacher mode, right? Like dad preacher. I'm like, hey, come on, the Lord loves you. It's going to be fine. It's fine. Yeah. While I'm sitting there going, Dad, come it, not again. So he asked her to stop by his office while we were on campus the next day. And so we did. We did the whole thing. We went in. We went into his office. He's a great guy. A little quirky, but great guy. And he like leans up on the desk. Like gets real. I'm thinking, what is this dude doing? I mean, where I'm from, when you bow up on somebody, that's a different story. You know what I mean? I'm from a rough part of Birmingham, Alabama. So he says, I have a roster spot for you. Dang it, Clay. I said I wasn't going to get emotional this time. He said, I have a roster spot for you. She goes, Coach, I can't swim. Oh, I know. But you'll make our team better. Because not a single swimmer on this team has ever suffered like you and still love the sport. And so she's now the official manager of the Manchester University swim team. It is not what I asked for. It is not what I begged for. It's not what she prayed about. But now she's going to be a miracle in somebody else's life. She will live with chronic pain her entire life. We already know that. It's going to be part of her story forever. She's going to be able to look at a swimmer at swim practice in college and go, hey, stop complaining. You see this? Why don't you do one more lap for me? I'm a student coach trainer now. You just do it. No, she won't. She'll be the biggest cheerleader. She'll love it. She'll hold the boards in the water for the 1,600 crazy swimmers that swim a mile. That's dumb. I don't know why anybody would do that, but she's going to get to do all that. Listen, all I'm trying to tell you is I know that you may be waiting on a miracle that hasn't happened yet, but don't miss the fact that the movement in your life right now is miraculous. And because of the way Jesus positions you through your suffering, you're going to be the miracle in somebody else's life. And can I tell you, I really want the healing to come for all of you, for any of you, for what you're asking for. But what I want more than anything is for you to fulfill the direction Jesus has in front of you. And if that's in suffering to help others, then let's do that. But let's not do it alone. Let's do it with others who love us, 3 a.m. friends who care about us. Let's just get up. Let's just get up. That's all we need to do. Let's pray together. So Jesus, we admit this morning that we can ask for a lot. We admit this morning that nothing is impossible for you. We know this. But we also confess that we're not good at waiting. I mean, Chick-fil-A has 2 drive-through lines. Jesus, what in the world? We want what we want it now. But Jesus, the refining fire, the potter's wheel, it comes to perfection over time. So give us the faith to just get up. Just get up. Just one more lap. I'm going to pray one more day. I'm going to pray one more hour. I'm going to wait another time. And so, Jesus, we need you desperately to be able to fulfill that direction in our lives. Lord, for those of us who have received a miracle that we prayed for, I pray that we tell that story for the rest of our lives because you get the glory for it. But for the rest of us, for any of us, as we wait, I pray that we'll honor you in just getting up. So, Jesus, we cast this at your feet. We bow before you and confess that you are the only one we need. And it's in your name that we pray and ask. Amen.